July the 14th, and guess what? We've had Ruby for an entire month. Yep, we got her on June the 14th, and guess we've been living the Tesla dream since then.
Right.
So Don and I thought we would share a list of our pros and cons about how we feel about our experience with Tesla Model X. I want to say that I think if we had it to do all over again, we would go out and rebuy the Tesla Model X that we...
Nothing has changed that decision.
Yeah, we're gonna, you know, while I may list the con, that doesn't mean I'm not happy with my car. I just want to say up front, I'm happy with my car. But we are going to give both sides of the coin here. So
you're definitely going to get the sense that these are first world problems.
Okay, you can start.
Okay, well, on the pro or the positive thing, I really think the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack was worth the extra money in our for both the security and the convenience. I don't have to worry about Marianne running off somewhere and running the battery down and having you know, stuck on the side of the road. With the 100 kilowatt hour battery, that's just not going to happen. It's she can run around town all day. I mean, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of driving in town at, you know, 35 miles an hour, it will not run the battery down. So that's a very positive thing. If it was, you know, if, a 75 kilowatt battery pack probably for just me would have probably been okay, but the safety and the convenience of the 100 for Marianne, and plus when we travel as a family on the road, on road trips, that extra range of the 100 is, I think, is well worth it.
I'll just add that the first 2 months of driving with the X, the month that we've had her and the next upcoming month, are not typical driving months for us because the boys are not in school. But starting in August, when I'll be driving 100 actual miles minimum a weekday, that's going to change our driving habits and the amount of miles we're putting on Ruby significantly. So we don't judge just the distance that we're traveling during these vacation or down off school months. Yeah,
we're probably going to do just 20,000 miles just in transporting the kids to and from school this year.
So we do have the extra music package on our X, and I can't decide which I like more about the music. The actual sound quality coming out of the speakers, which is actually, I can't put it at full volume, it's too loud, or the fact that I can stream all this great music for free, that it's just flawless, the sound and the selection coming through, and sharing it with the kids in the car. It's kind of like the feel-good drive down the road scenario because of the good music. So Don was nice enough, generous enough to let me get that music because he knows that I'm in the car a lot and I really do enjoy it. I probably will switch to listening to some audiobooks when I start doing that 100 miles a day, but for now I'm really enjoying the sound quality and the music selection that comes with Tesla streaming.
Right, and there again, if it had just been me, I listen to talk radio, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I probably wouldn't have spent the extra money on the sound system for me, but music's really important to Marianne, so it was a easy decision after we listened to one without the enhanced or premium sound. The Tesla sales rep was great. He took us out in 2 Model X's sitting side by side. He hooked her phone up so she could play exactly the song she wanted to listen to in the X that had regular sound, and then one with the premium sound. And even I, who am basically tone deaf, I could tell it's like night and day. I mean, salt and pepper, or whatever. It was a no-brainer. If you're into music, enjoy your music, you should get the premium sound.
Yeah, I played Def Leppard, Photograph, and Van Halen Jump to test the sound out for starters during that test experience.
Right.
So what's next?
The other thing I have found and think that just using the UMC charger, in other words, Tesla provides a universal mobile charger with the car, and that's all we've been using at home to charge our car with. I did not purchase an additional level 2 charger. All I did to accommodate our home for the Tesla was install a 30 amp receptacle in the breaker box in the garage that we plug the UMC into. And I have to say, we've had no charging. Every day we've gone out every morning, and it's been fully charged. So the amount of time that it takes to charge the Tesla, even at 30 amps, has been more than adequate for us. I have it set right now to start charging at 11 p.m. at night, and it usually finishes by 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. When she starts driving more, I'll probably have to drop that down to maybe 9 o'clock, maybe even 8 o'clock. I don't see us ever start charging before 8 p.m. because the time of use doesn't kick in until 8 p.m. So
the cheaper electricity.
That's right. The off-peak, I could see us starting at 8 p.m. and charging all the way that entire 12 hours if that's what it took. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but we didn't have to buy a charger, which is depending on which one you get in installation, it could be anywhere from $400 to upwards to $1,500 to $2,000. It depends on if you can install it yourself or what kind of modifications to your home you'd need.
So another positive that I have about the car is I'm really comfortable in my seat. My back and my bum are both comfortable to sit in a seat for 2 or 3 hours between stopping, no problem. Besides, during the driving time, I'm often in the car kind of doing my thing on my phone, pulled over someplace. So I do sit in the car quite a good bit, even if I'm not actually driving. So I haven't been uncomfortable once, no restless legs, no feeling like I gotta get out. And it doesn't matter if I'm in the passenger seat or over in the driver's seat, either side I'm comfortable on. And I really can't say that about any of our other vehicles. I'm always a little restless up in the seat. So whatever they've done with these seats, they're good.
Right. And I love the backup camera. I realize backup cameras are now pretty much standard, even on very inexpensive cars now have backup cameras. This is my first car with a backup camera.
Mine too.
The GMC SUV I have is problematic backing up. I mean, I cannot see behind it whatsoever, and I have to rely on looking before I start backing up, and then just hoping and watching the mirrors as I go backwards that nothing has appeared behind me. So the backup camera is well worth it. I love that. So what's next for you, sweetie?
I love the instant acceleration.
Right.
I'm trying to be a good girl. The car, the acceleration, okay, so I'm an adrenaline junkie, right?
Yep.
Top Gun, The Need for Speed is one of my favorite movies. I don't have a lead foot, right?
No, she doesn't.
I really don't. I haven't been pulled over by a cop any time in recent history, and I plan to keep that up. But let's just say that the chiming is going off. I have it set to warn me, and the kids are like, God, Mom, does it have to chime again? So I'm, part of that is that the database of the speed limits is not as accurate as it could be. In a few places, either there isn't one, so it picks when to chime, or it's wrong. So that is a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you want to keep up with traffic, but you don't want to go over the speed limit. So there's some compromise between, when you're out there driving, behaving with other cars, versus maintaining the speed limit, right? Yep. But the instant acceleration is great. I don't purposefully pull out in front of people, but if I made a misjudgment in pulling out, I would be able to get away from pretty much anything coming at me. So the acceleration, it's fast and it's immediate.
Yep. I agree totally. The zoom or zoom factor is incredible in the Tesla. Another thing I enjoy is the convenience of the automatic doors, both the self-presenting and more so maybe even the closing. I like it when I slip into the driver's seat that all I have to do is hit the brake pedal and it closes the driver's door. You know, the seats are very comfortable, as Marianne said. I really like the side-to-side support. I'm not quite as flexible as I used to be. So when the door is wide open, or I tend to open the door wide open, and then when I get in the car and my butt's in the seat, to lean way over there and grab the door handle to close it, you know, that's some emotion is, but I don't have to do that. I could just hit the brake pedal and it closes the door. I have to say I really like that. The self-presenting door is I like that a lot. When I walk up to the car and it just pops the door open, and you know, I just kind of slip in and then I hit the brake and it closes. It's just like, wow, how cool is that?
So I also love the fact that this car is essentially a hatchback. I drove a 1991 Acura Integra in college and my first year starting out in the workforce, and I love that little hatchback and the amount of cargo that I could carry in it, and folding down the, you know, back part of it, and just, it was great. So far I have not missed my van and cargo room at all. I feel with the third row down, which we generally don't need because we're only a 4-person family, that I'm able to get all my groceries and everything into the car that I need, and I'm happy with it. So the only thing I would add is I'd like hooks in the back for a net so that stuff doesn't slide, so that I can put just a small amount back there and it's not moving around. Although those cargo carriers, those little box thingies that I got for back there, the trunk storage, they're keeping things from sliding pretty good.
Right. The other big thing I love is the windshield. This panoramic windshield, or whatever you call this, where you can look up. It's great, and I am bald as I can be, and I don't feel the sun beating down on my bald head at all. I have used the Tesla provided sunscreen, removable sunscreen. We did it once just to make sure, you know, just to do it. We didn't need it. I could say possibly in some places, you know, out west, Arizona, maybe California, where you're, especially if you're driving into the sun, it might get a little warm, and putting that screen up. But in North Carolina, we changed directions a lot. In other words, we're not going into the sun a lot continuously, you know, for, you know, 100 miles. So I haven't felt the need to worry about keeping the sunscreen up. But I could see if you were on a cross-country road trip and you were in Arizona and the sun was beating, you might find it smart to put that sunscreen up. But in normal, every day around town, be bopping around, it's not been an issue. It's been great, and I love the view.
I want you to know that I am still enamored with the Falcon Wing doors. I fell in love with the Falcon Wing doors, which I accidentally call X-Wing doors from time to time, because of my Star Wars addiction. But I fell in love with them. The first time I saw them, I knew I wanted an X. I mean, like, I wouldn't have even EV Tesla. I just love the doors. So
yeah.
I don't regret the doors at all. I've been bopped by the door one time because I told Johnny he could close the door, and then I decided to reach in and grab for something. Totally my fault. Ariel accidentally got bopped by the door, sort of for the same reason one time. It doesn't hurt any more or less than the sliding door on my van if you decided to get in the way of it while it was moving. They open and close great. They're not hitting things. People can get comfortably in and out.
Right.
They're working just fine with our needs for our garage situation, so no regrets on the doors.
Right. You know, I'm
He's still
chilling.
cautious.
I'm cautiously optimistic that the long-term reliability of the X-Wing doors,
Falcon Wing.
thank you very much, the Falcon Wing doors is going to be good. In other words, you know, we have a warranty on the car, and then of course they'll take care of it, but then after it goes out of warranty, you know, knowing my luck, one of the doors will break, and I'm just being cautiously optimistic that
It's a guy. It's his job to worry about that stuff.
I worry about that stuff. That's true. The thing I like, one of the things I really like is the traffic aware cruise control. Now, I like autopilot too. Don't miss this out. Autopilot is good. I love it. It's getting better. But the traffic aware cruise control, I have actually found I've used that. I use that like constantly. The first thing is that it helps me avoid that problem Marianne mentioned, which is going too fast. I have it set for 5 miles an hour over. So, you know, if I'm in a 35, it'll keep the car up to 40 miles an hour, and that's generally enough there, because it's traffic aware. If I'm following somebody, you know, it'll adjust the speed to 39 or something like that. So that's worked out well. And then when we go up to the stoplight, it stops the car, and then when the car in front of us stops, the Tesla stops, and when they take off, it goes. I have to say, using traffic aware cruise control is really something I very much like. I do like the autopilot. But the cruise control is great.
I am still happy I chose the red paint and the white seats, and that Don agreed that that was a good combination for us.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
All my other cars have been blue. Cadillac I drove as a clunker in high school, the Integra, and then the Honda minivan, they've all been blue, and I sort of am a red girl and always wanted a red, but just not kind of went out there to get it, so happy with that. The white seats, you know, we've watched a lot of videos on them and spills and how they hold up, and don't wear brand new blue jeans. We're very careful.
Right.
I have purchased some white towels that we keep in the frunk, and if you're wet, if you think you have on a piece of clothing that you shouldn't have in the car, if you've gotten dirty where we've gone someplace, we just grab the white towels and make use of them to help us stay out of trouble, and
right.
White towels so that there's no color in the towel to bleed on the seats. But
right.
We're probably more careful than we need to be.
Yep.
But it's a new car, so we're going to be careful. But I highly recommend folks getting a Tesla with white seats. Invest in some lightweight white towels to keep in the car so you can sit on them and utilize them when you need to.
Right. Another thing I like is the hold of the brake. Whenever you go up to a traffic light and you've put the brake on, or you're in line at Chick-fil-A, let's say, you basically can press the brake pedal and a little H appears on the operator console, and then you can take your foot off the brake and it holds the brake for you. You don't have to keep your foot on the brake. And I find myself using that all the time because the Tesla will actually roll. We don't have creep enabled, and if you're on a hill, in a gasoline car, especially manual clutch, you know, you'd have to keep your foot on the brake. And I don't have to do that with this feature where it just keeps the brake held for me, and then as soon as I touch the accelerator, it lets it go, or if you hit the brake again, it lets it go. It's also, along with that hold and the traffic aware cruise control, whenever I'm driving the car, I like the regen. I'm pretty much in love with this one foot driving, one pedal driving. In fact, when it doesn't brake quick enough, I kind of like, oh, bummer. In other words, I have actually went into right hand, maybe you're making a right turn, and I have probably gone into these right turns a little quick because the regen hasn't slowed me down quite enough, and I don't want to hit the brake and waste that little bit of minuscule amount of energy there. Left-hand turns aren't quite as noticeable because typically you can cut the corner a little bit, but right turns, you know, they can get pretty sharp. But I like that, and
I haven't turned it off.
Right, and Marianne now is using full regen. She's got it on set on that, so we're both doing one pedal driving.
We're just in trouble if we go to get in one of our other vehicles because there's no regen braking, and we have to remind ourselves to actually start using the brake more again. I mean, it is a little bit of a thing switching between cars from a safety point of view and being a consistent driver, I think, but loving the regen also.
Right, and I would say the last little thing I put is I find the frunk handy. Marianne has taken over the well in the back, the interior well underneath the shelf in the back. She has a lot of her stuff there, and I always carry a straw hat with a brim because, again, I'm bald, and if I go out in the sun, I always want to have my hat, so I keep it in the frunk, and that way it doesn't get crushed. So it's nice and safe up there. The frunk itself is easy to open and get to. From that point of view, I wish it had an auto close, or at least that one where you go down, you just get it all the way down to, that last
inch.
Yeah, that last inch, and then some little paw or something grabs it and pulls it down the rest of the way. I wish Tesla would think about adding that. The guy at the service center, the day we picked up the car, said, "Oh, well, they can't do any kind of automatic thing up front," and maybe
it's a safety issue, NTSB or some safety thing.
I don't know.
Well, he's lucky it's not motorized, because if it were motorized, I would take it over too.
Right.
So, all those positive things said, there are some things that we wish will improve, or we would have done differently if we were designing the car, right?
Oh, we forgot a new addition. We got our first over-the-air update today. So it says it's fixed the auto perpendicular park and a couple other things. And that
didn't talk about any autopilot enhancements though.
Right.
That was a little disappointing.
Right, but the it has better range estimation. So we got free some new features that we didn't have before. Today was the very first day we got our first over-the-air update. I'm sorry, sweetie, go on.
That's all right. So there are a couple things we would change about the car if we could. I am not loving having my phone hooked up, my iPhone 6 hooked up to the car's Bluetooth. And the reason is because I send a lot of voice to text messages while I'm driving. I simply am in Hangouts or the Messenger app on the iPhone. I hit the microphone and I said, "Hey Donnie, I'm going to be home in 15 minutes. Can you greet me and help me in with the groceries?" Well, that's not usually what I say to him, but you get the idea. And it takes, God, it's got to be over 5 seconds before the microphone realizes that I want to initiate the text, and then it's very slow to translate, and then it has trouble translating on a good day when it's not hooked up to the car and being accurate, but now that's even worse. It's leaving off whole sentences and things, so I'm not too happy about that. We'll see. I have not been playing music off my phone very much anymore because the car has such good music, which would be the main reason I would want my phone hooked up to the car. But I haven't gotten so irritated that I've disconnected it yet, because I do get the calendar notices and the ability to call people on my contact list and that kind of thing. So for now, but it needs to speed up. It's too slow. It's not fast enough for me.
Right. And this car is big. We have a 9-foot wide garage door, and this thing is 90 inches wide. So we have literally less than a foot on each side. I mean, it's tight. Parking it in our garage. I mean, you think you just don't think about this car, but this really is a full-size car, at least from the width, and it's like her minivan. I mean, it's big. And then just so if you think this is a smaller car, you're wrong. This thing is full-size.
Just to add, we did go into it doing due diligence. We had Stephen from Tesla come out and do a Model X garage fit for us, so we knew exactly how the X would fit in the garage before we made the purchase. We also went online and brought up the measurements, and we compared them to the measurements on my Honda Odyssey. The cars are about the same width. They really are, but the Odyssey, of course, is a little longer. I think half the thing with the parking is all the beeping.
Yeah.
Which we've never had a car that, and I know there's other cars that do this, that try to warn you that you're close to things. You know, I just whipped the X in there. Been parking in that garage for a long time now. I haven't hit it, okay? But with the X, it's brand new. Right. I don't want to scratch it. I don't want to damage the garage. I want to be the first one. It's beeping at me. So we could turn that off, but then I'd be afraid out someplace I'd really need it. You know, I'd like to be able to say, don't beep at me at my garage, but beep everywhere else, right? I know my garage. I don't need you warning me how close. I don't know, but I think the beeping goes a long way to the uncomfortableness of parking in our particular bay. And we have not worked on Summit anymore. It's just too darn hot and humid out there. We're baking in the sun every time, or we're getting bit by mosquitoes. So in the fall, maybe we'll try to work on Summit some more. But for right now, we sort of took a break and said, you know, we just don't have to have that working right now.
Yeah, and about that beeping, maybe instead of turning it off completely, maybe making it tight where it only, when you're within like 12 inches or something, it beeps then. In other words, it starts beeping when you're like 36 inches, 30 inches away. I've seen those numbers on the little display. I don't need you to tell me that I've only got 18 inches on each side of the car when I'm going through the garage door. That's not helpful information. Now, if I'm on one side, I'm 8 inches or 9 inches, and that might be useful. But you know, if I'm so maybe it needs to kind of like reduce it down, you know, because I'm going all of 1 mile an hour. So if it beeped at 12 inches, I could stop instantly. I mean, it would be that fast that, you know, if you're going 10 miles an hour, beeping in the last foot isn't any good. But if you're going 1 mile or 1.5 miles an hour, you could stop in plenty of time. Plus, even if you bump into something when you're doing less than 1 mile an hour, it isn't going to do any catastrophic damage. So I guess if not the beeping, because I'm thinking of Talking Tesla, one of the hosts of that show, they had turned off the beeping completely, or didn't know it was off, and they backed into their gate, not knowing it from the rear when they were backing up that the gate was closed, and they backed into it. It just happened, and it didn't. They said, well, why didn't it beep? Well, they had turned the beep off. So, you know, I'm reticent to turn off the beeping, but maybe if there was a setting around home that it would say, I'm only going to beep when you're with less than 12 inches away from something. I think that would be a worthwhile thing.
I find with a lot of the settings, they're a good step in the right direction, right, but we want more refinement on almost all of the settings. That's like, right. Give us fair. More control over the settings. That's a good first pass that we can turn it on and off, but we want to adjust it more. It's not, you know, there should be sliders on a lot of these settings and things. You know, give us that option.
Yeah, did I not say first world problems here?
Right, yes, exactly. Right. Yes. So, the center console area. Oh God. I just have to say it. I think it was designed by a man. I just had to say it. Okay.
The front seat.
The one between the driver and the passenger. Okay. It's not working for me. And Dawn, by the way, has told me I'm lucky I have a pocket in the doors in the front. Yeah. Because the original S's didn't even have a pocket. I keep a white microfiber towel there that I use to wipe down the car, and a spare camera battery there.
Camera case.
Yeah, little tiny camera case. So I'm glad to have that. But there's no room for my purse. I always have 1 or 2 or possibly 3 cameras with me. It usually takes me and Dawn walking me out to the car in the morning to get all my water bottles and camera equipment and telephones and purse in the car. Like, I really need help from people. I appreciate that we'll make a trip out there.
It's not possible for her to get to the car in one trip.
It's not a good idea. I might drop my electronics, right? We don't want a cracked phone screen because I tried to carry too much stuff out to the car. But I won't use the lower cup holder area. because I want to set my equipment there. I have a towel, a Star Wars black, white, red stormtrooper towel over that area, so it won't get scratched up, and so that my equipment can lay there without sliding off the slick console surface. And that's working good for me personally. Wouldn't probably work for other people. Don, I'm sure, doesn't appreciate it, but since it's my car, that's how I have it set up. I use the upper area cup holders, but my elbow's not happy about that, and when I'm driving I can't reach it really good. There's not a secure place for my purse. If I drop it over into the back seat, the kids will step on it, or I can't reach it to get it when I get out of the car. Sort of the same problem with the passenger seat. The whole console area is just not working for me. I'm making do with it, but I'm not happy about it. It's not what I need as a mom. You know, I have more camera equipment than mom equipment, but if I had smaller children, I would have the same problem. I would have some of the same problem with where do I put this mom stuff. So yeah, just not digging the console. Right.
Okay, so the steering wheel. Even the very first test drive that we took back in March of both the S and the X, they used the same steering wheel. The girth of the steering wheel, when I grip it, it's just a little bit bigger. I don't have small hands, honestly. I do not. But I guess I don't like it quite that thick. I don't like those little skinny steering wheels. I hate those. And I like this one well enough, but actually, I think I would prefer it just to be a scooch less in diameter. I don't know, it's probably like 1.25 inches in diameter, maybe an inch. I would find that a little bit more comfortable. It's just a little quirk on my part.
Yeah, I don't have the same feeling about it. It feels good in my hand. But yeah, I get it. Everybody's got their preferences. I want a built-in dash cam front and back. Okay, this is 2017. This car has cameras. It's a whole heck of a lot easier to have that stuff in at the time the car's built than to go adding it aftermarket. Anyone that's been inside an X or has an X knows that there's all this glass up here and that strip, and if you want to install it properly, you've basically got to take that strip off or run the wire along the side of the strip. They do make one that goes in the autopilot camera place, which we've considered, but that's not a cheap camera, and it may be lacking a couple features we want. But at any point, I mean, I'm not saying everybody has to pay for that, but I know there are a lot of people out there that would be willing to pay to have a backup and a forward dash cam and the ability to pull stuff off of there for their own personal use. Why can't we have that? I mean, really.
Right. The basically, you know, the camera is really already there, although I understand that the front-facing camera is black and white. The rear-facing camera, backup camera, is color. So the backup camera could easily do the job if there was just some way to offload the files or have access to the files. The front camera might have to be upgraded to color. And it was also would need some kind of a button or something, because the dash cam we have has a little remote button that you just place on the dash, and it wirelessly contacts the camera to tell it to save that frame or that video. So every time you push the button, whenever something exciting happens that you want to, I want to look at that.
That guy almost hit me. Yeah. Push the button. Oh, there's a cute deer over there. Right. Push the button. That way, because it does overwrite depending on the size of your card after you accumulate, and pushing the button puts it in a folder that's not overwritten.
That's right. Saves that
clip.
So, and you can go back later and you can find the clip real easy because it's tucked away in its own folder.
Theoretically, at night makes it easier for me to find the dash cam footage that I want to include in the daily video.
So the self-presenting doors. I just said I like the clothes, the self-presenting doors and the mirrors folding and unfolding. You know, we keep the car in the garage, and unfortunately we have a refrigerator in the garage, and so she's sending me out to the garage, you know, 5 times around making supper to get this from the garage refrigerator, get this from the garage refrigerator, you know, yada 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 yada. Well, if I have the key fob in my pocket every time I go out to the garage, it wakes up the car, it does the mirrors, unfolds the mirror, and opens the door. And then when I leave the garage, it closes the door, folds up the mirror, and turns off the car. It's sort of like, you know, it's one of those things you're just not happy. I just told you I like it, and then when I don't want it. So it's like
he gripes about it. I don't quite have the same feeling, but
well, part of my,
he's worried about the mirror battery, the mirror motor running out over time because we're using it so much.
Right. I mean, for every one time it opens and it's the right time and I love it and it's great, there's could be at least another time or twice or 3 times it opens and I wish it wouldn't do that. So the answer is, you say, well, Don, leave the key fob in the house, and that's what I do if I remember to take the key fob out before I go out to the garage, and then we're good.
So I think we've made it pretty clear that we use Amazon devices in our house for home automation.
Right.
And once you have a device in your house that you can hands-free talk to and has a watchword, is listening all the time for you, you don't want to have it work any other way.
Right.
So if I want to call somebody in the car, I have to push the little person voice button on the thing and say, you know, call Joey. And I don't want to have to do that. I just want to say, Ruby, call Joey. I want the car listening. So, and this would also fix sort of the auto present feature.
Right.
On if the car was listening within a 5-foot radius on the outside of the car and you're holding the key fob, you could just say, Ruby, open the driver's door, you know, or Ruby, close the trunk, you know, or Ruby, honk the horn. I mean, why should I have to use the app on my phone? Or, you know, a lot of times I don't want to touch the car. So if somebody gets out of the passenger side and I've got out of the driver's side and I want to close the passenger door, I've got to reach into the touch screen to touch the little button to close the door. I don't want to do that. So
she uses her key fobs that buried in her purse, and she'd have to.
I never take it out. I'll lose it.
She's a woman. It's way down in the bottom, so there is no. Let's reach in here and hit double tap to close the doors or triple tap. We know all about that. I do that all the time. But for Mary Ann, digging the fob out of her purse isn't as convenient as you might think.
Yeah, I've had to change my habits. I had my van keys on a large safety pin that I wore in my jean belt loop a lot, or had on the outside of my purse hooked to my purse. And I don't have that with the key fob. And yeah, I don't want to lose that expensive key fob. And so, yeah, I don't get it out too much. I keep it with me so the car knows I have it, but I'm not taking it in and out a lot.
I wish I mentioned it earlier, I wish the frunk had an auto close. In other words, I don't mean automatically open it and close like the lift gate, but just that last inch, if it would just go on and the motor would pull it tight, I would like that. And also I'd like to, talking about motors, this thing has, you know, motors that open the door, the Falcon Wing door motors, the lift gate motor. I mean, the seats have got 9 different motors, I think. Why didn't they put a motor on the seat belt to raise the seat belt up? So when I'm in the car, I like it high. When Mary Ann's in the car, she likes it low. So we're all the time having to manually adjust the seat belt on the B-pillar. Why not put at least one more for the driver, put yet another motor in here and raise and lower that thing? And
maybe that's a highway safety issue where they're not allowed to motorize that. We don't know. That could be the case, or we don't know. But yeah, it's a real. You cannot adjust the seatbelt height while you're in drive down the road. I mean, maybe if you were on autopilot and you did the wrong thing and took your hands off the wheel, but you know, it's a real maneuver to get up there. You kind of need both hands. So you've either got to pull over, or you're griping at the person. You're griping at yourself for forgetting it, or you're griping at the person, that other person that drove before you. So yeah. I'm disappointed with the car's user manual. I mean, that's really nice. I can pull it up on the touchscreen and everything, but there have been several times that the manual didn't go into enough detail that to get the real answer to how something worked, I had to go out there and Google and either read an article or watch a video.
Yeah.
It's just not quite detailed enough. Or where are the official Tesla, you know, I don't know, videos? Or it's just been lacking for me. It's a few times. And to go along with that, the settings and control area on the car, where I go into controls and I have controls and settings, you know, it's just not as intuitive as we'd like of which things are grouped where. I guess one is the things you need while you're driving down the road that you would want to fuss with, and one are the things you just want to control about the car, but not necessarily related to actually driving. But even after a month, I'm still having to hit a bunch of tabs trying to find what I want potentially. So
hunt and peck, yes.
If it were done right, and it has nothing to do with intelligence, it would be intuitive and you would just hit the right one all the time. So something's not quite as usable there as I think it could be.
Yeah, and along those lines, the turn signals, they're a little stiff. They don't feel fragile, or they don't feel precision, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. Maybe quality, I don't know. They don't feel flimsy or anything like that. Just don't, you know, they don't have the right kind of feel to me. But that's, again, a personal preference. So since other people might that be no interest to them, I think the turn signal clicker, why can't I put my own clicking sound? I mean, let me have my own wave file. So let me customize that. If I, you know, give the standard one and give me, you know, just like I've got different ringtones on my phone, maybe I would prefer to have a different clicker on that. And it's the same thing, Miriam was talking about additional customizations, like the mirrors. Backing out of the garage with the backup camera, honestly, don't need the mirrors. Maybe they could stay folded in. And then the car would be, it's like almost a foot narrower, and you wouldn't have to worry so much, you know, because the most likely thing that's going to happen isn't that the bumper is going to bump into anything. What's going to most likely happen is we're not careful, we're distracted, and we're backing out of the garage, and the mirror catches the garage door jam. That's the most likely thing to happen.
Now I have to agree that I'm not looking at the mirrors. Normally I've rolled down the window and I'm looking over my shoulder, or now I'm looking at the rear camera.
Right.
I'm not ever looking in the passenger side mirror to see if I'm close over there, because my perspective's not good. I really can't tell anyway.
And I'm basically watching the backup camera, because the backup camera draws lines and basically predicts where you're going, and it shows that you're basically in the door. Anyway, I'm just saying that maybe the mirrors ought to fold up or not fold up. I'd like more control over that.
So we recently did that trip to New Bern, and we had sufficient trip planning facilities that we were okay. But you know, our garage is detached from the house, and we don't really want to have to go out and get in the garage to plan a trip. So we were able to go to the Tesla supercharger site, and we used Google Maps, and you used that one plug-in website.
Yeah,
to
PlugShare,
and that was good. And one of our viewers suggested EV Trip Planner, which I have since checked out, and I do think it's a worthwhile tool.
Right.
Does not currently support the Model X 100D battery, but I think with plugging in the 90D you can get close. But still, that doesn't have access to my percent of charge in the car, or, you know, sort of real-time information from the car. So it's still limited, but I wish Tesla would put out an app, like as part of the Tesla app, that would be navigation, that would talk to the car from, you know, over the Wi-Fi, and let me do my, you know, trip planning from in the house. Would sort of maybe simulate what I can do on the touchscreen from in the car, because
right,
I'm not always in the car when I'm planning my trips.
Right. Yeah. So you know, we had said that we're very happy with the X, and we are. We'd buy it again, yes. I would say, however, we never even considered the 7-seat option, because of that second row was such
it was a solid moving piece, right?
Yeah, well,
and it didn't fold.
Well, the three pieces, the two in the middle, they all three moved, but they didn't fold. The seats did not fold flat. Now they literally in the last couple weeks have announced the folding second row seat. So we probably would have gotten the 7-seater with the folding second row. We probably would have done that. We like the 6-seater with the console, but if given a choice between 6-seater or the 7-seater with folding second row seats, because the 6-seaters, those seats don't fold. They go forward, but they don't fold. I think I would prefer the 7-seater. I predict that by far the biggest selling Model X is going to be the 7-seater with the folding second row. I understand last quarter, the second quarter 2017, that the Model S and X sales were kind of flat. I anticipate that this third quarter that the sales on the Model X are going to bump up a little bit, because I suspect there were people who waiting, hoping, who just weren't happy with the seat arrangements. They needed 7 seats, and they looked at those original 7-seat configuration and said, man, that's just not going to work for us. And now with that folding second row, I predict that those people will pull the trigger and buy an X now. So I expect a noticeable bump in third quarter sales, but now that assumes that they can really deliver those in the third quarter. But basically, I'm saying is that this is a feature that you could debate should have been there from day one. But hey, that's between Elon and their marketing and what they did. But I like the 6 seats. I like the center console in the 6 seat. The foot room isn't an issue. We've done a video on the fact that console in the second row still allows you to put your foot up next to in the middle there. You can't put both feet in there, but you can certainly put one, and that makes a lot of difference. So I'm just saying that I think the 7-seater with the folding second row for us would have been fine. I could have built some kind of a fort wall between the two boys to keep them apart, because the console does that really good, but I could have made that work in a 7-seat configuration also.
I guess the last improvement I had was the Google Maps that are in the car. Give me the maps from my phone. I mean, it is Google Maps, but it's sort of a altered Google Maps. It's not as functional. How do we turn off tolls? Dawn and I don't want to take toll roads unless we're late to get to a doctor's appointment in Durham. That's the only time we're going to take that toll road. How can we say, but I know this route is better than the one you chose for me. I'd like you to map out my mileage on this other route and let me know if I can do that or not.
Right.
Where are the restaurants along the way, the other things I might want to stop at? I mean, maybe we're missing something because we're still new to the car. Right. And if we are, just leave us a comment and tell us, and we'll go check it out. But, you know, we end up every trip so far going in and doing a sanity check with the Google Maps app, either on my iPhone or Dawn's Android device. Right. Just to do these other things. So yeah. Right.
I have noticed, and I couldn't be wrong, but because we've only done it one time, one trip, that it tends to pick the absolute, the car maps tend to pick the absolute shortest distance. In other words, Marianne was saying when we were coming back from New Bern, the way we knew, which was quicker, was literally like 1 mile further, but yet the car wanted us to go another way that would have took us through traffic lights, stop and go. It was shorter. It really was. That other way, no doubt about it, was a mile shorter. So I guess if you're basically, are you going to make it or walk that last mile, that was important. So maybe you have an option to say the fastest route or the shortest route, and that would be a worthwhile thing. And
you know, another thing too is when you decide not to listen to where it wants you to go because you know where you're going and you're just sort of, the car's there, but it's not real, you're not reliant on it. It takes forever for it to figure out you're going this other thing and redraw the map. On my phone, it might try to tell me to turn around one time, but once I mean, this thing literally went on for like 10 minutes. Turn around. Well, it wasn't talking to us, but you know, it was showing us all these turnaround options, and I'm like, Can you not figure out we're not turning around? We've chosen an alternate route. Catch up to us.
Right.
Remap it for us. Show us, you know, it was just, or pop up a message. You know, you should turn around, or would you like me to map the alternate route? That'd be okay. I could reach over at the touchscreen and say, I want the alternate route, you know, but it just went, it was slow.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we were planning the trip when we first got out that morning to leave, and we put in the New Bern address, and you know, we hit, you know, navigate. It popped up that the round trip we would arrive home at 17%, but then that went away,
and we couldn't figure out how to get back to
how to get that. I'd like to know what the round trip, in other words, at least have, would you like the round trip information? You know, give me an option so I could pop that up. Now, it may be there, and I just didn't see it again, or didn't figure out how to get to it, but it did flash that up for just a brief period of time, and it was gone, and I couldn't figure out how to get that back.
For the time that we have 2 people in the car, which during this vacation summer period has been frequent, 2 adults up in the front, me and Dawn, there's quite a bit of time where the person in the passenger seat is experimenting with things in the manual, on the control settings, on Google Maps, trying to understand it. So, because it really takes more resource than the driver can manage at this point.
Without the voice, that's right.
But you know what occurs to me, of a lot of the things that we'd like to see improved, a lot of them really do have to do with software.
Yeah.
I mean, go back through that list and think of how many of those things were really things that they could improve upon on our current car.
You don't have to buy a new car. Just give me some more software to download software. I had said it in one of our conversations, Marianne. It's like, I understand that they have to, from a safety, there's a lot of systems in this car that deal with safety, and therefore they can't open them up to third-party developers, or have an API for me to use, or something like that.
Don wants to write his own code.
Just please, God, let me keep my hands on the code. But you know, there's got to be a something. You know, like we have Google Play, Google Red. We get Google streaming, so we can do Google Stream, but there's no option for Google Play or Google streaming on there, and we're already paying for that streaming. And granted, we can stream
for music.
From
we're not talking about just YouTube. We're talking about the Google Music part. But we can't stream our Google Music
because it's not on. Yeah, we can from our phone, but which is probably okay. Now, I do understand that Tesla's paying for the data on the thing right now, and maybe later on, Model 3 or something, when the customer is paying, you know, you have to buy a data plan for your car. You know, maybe they will open it up. So if I want to stream my own personal data music service, then that's, you know, I'm paying for the streaming. But right now, you know, whether they got TuneIn or something like that, or is it? Yeah, they're probably
and their own streaming, which I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, they probably got a deal with StreamIn where they're getting a break on the connection. I don't know.
I just know what shows up is good. I'm just going to briefly mention the DVD player, because I feel like I have to. So we haven't been on a trip with the boys yet that's out of town. And we are accustomed, when we go on trips over an hour, of, you know, I got a DVD player up here in the van. And they can both, that's the same one, but they can both watch it. It'll be interesting to see if that matters. I know, I've heard, you know, we expect people to have their own device, and they're gonna maybe download what they want to watch to their device before they leave, and I understand that, but it's kind of hard when, you know, there was no option for a DVD player, and also we have this big jumbotron of displays up here in the front, and we can't watch anything on it, at least while the car is in park even. Or off. So I get the whole cost of streaming, but I think a lot of people would be happier if they could, if there was some mechanism for streaming something at some point during your use of the car. So anything better than, nope, there's just no streaming.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out. I agree that you know, we watched like Tesla and a couple other families with young children, and I'm sure a DVD player that the mom or dad can control from the front seat would be useful. I mean, the kids, they're, at least when you look in the rearview mirror, you can see them looking up at the DVD. You can actually see their faces versus the top of their heads, because you know, kids bury their faces in the devices. And I just see, I'm not a big DVD, but you know, having a rear seat screen or something like that, or at least the option for that.
Well, I can just guarantee you, if we take a trip in the 4+ hour range with the boys, that it'll be a factor.
Yeah, but they're not. The boys are never going to manage their devices enough that they have downloaded ahead of time. You know,
enough content to stay.
Yeah,
they'll be on their 3DS, but
right.
They'd be happier probably and quieter watching a video.
Yeah, remember the greatest bandwidth is a minivan full of CDs. If you want to move the data across town the fastest, it's not fiber optic cable, it's not any of that. It's load up your minivan, load up the trunk of your car with DVDs and drive across town. That's the fastest way to get a lot of data. So those DVDs, they're very convenient. You get a lot of bang for that little package, and you can carry 10 of them in a heartbeat, and they can pick out which ones they want, and you can put them in there versus, you know, the time to download ahead of time, and then once they've watched 1 or 2 items, they're out of business, and then they're, you know, wanting entertainment. And trust me, one of the great joys of owning a Tesla is the thrill of the kids are back there and they can entertain themselves. So anything that improves that's good.
So thanks for tuning in today and listening to what Dawn and I our impressions of having our Model X Ruby for the first month. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
I personally appreciate too every view that we've had over the last month, and
the comments.
I am new to doing videography. I'm a photographer. I have taught myself how to use WeVideo, and am transitioning from a perspective of taking still images to what would be interesting as a short video clip instead. It's been a learning curve for me. Hopefully some of the more recent videos are better than the ones in the beginning, because I've learned a few tips and tricks, and hopefully too I'll continue to improve as we do more. But thank you for everyone that has tuned in.